Rain hammered against the tall glass windows of the luxury hotel, turning the city lights into blurred streaks of gold and silver. Inside the quiet lobby, people rushed past with umbrellas and hurried steps. But near the entrance, a young woman stood frozen, clutching her small bag as if it were the only thing keeping her steady. Her name was Alina. She had just been fired from her job. Her boss had accused her of a mistake she didn't even make. And in a single cold meeting, her entire life seemed to collapse. With barely enough money in her pocket to survive the week, she wandered through the rain until she stepped into the nearest building to escape the storm. She didn't realize it was one of the most expensive hotels in the city. And she definitely didn't expect that her life would change forever that very night. At the same time, on the top floor, the man everyone in the business world feared sat silently in a private lounge. Ethan Vale, the youngest billionaire CEO in the country, known for his icy personality, ruthless business decisions, and emotionless expression. Employees whispered that he never smiled, never dated, and trusted no one. To him, relationships were distractions. But that night, he wasn't working. He was drinking. One glass turned into three. Three turned into five. Not because he loved alcohol, but because something inside him felt strangely empty. When Ethan finally left the lounge, he stepped into the elevator just as the doors were about to close. And that's when he saw her. Alina stood inside, dripping wet from the rain, her hair clinging to her cheeks. She looked nervous and out of place, as if she had accidentally walked into the wrong world. Their eyes met for only a second. But something about her caught his attention. Not her beauty, though she was beautiful in a soft and natural way. It was the sadness in her eyes. The elevator reached the lobby, and as Alina stepped out, she nearly slipped on the marble floor. Ethan instinctively reached out and grabbed her arm, steadying her before she could fall. For a moment, they stood very close. "Careful," he said quietly. His voice was deep and calm, but there was something unfamiliar in it. Concern. Alina quickly pulled back. "I'm sorry." She turned to leave, embarrassed, but the hotel receptionist stopped her. "Miss, you can't stay here unless you have a reservation." Her face turned pale. I was just trying to wait until the rain stopped." The receptionist looked irritated. "You'll have to leave." Ethan watched the entire exchange. Something about the situation bothered him. Before he could even think about it, he spoke. "She's with me." Both women looked at him in shock. The receptionist immediately straightened. "Of course, Mr. Vale." Alina turned to him, confused. "Wait, I'm not—" "Come with me," he said calmly. She hesitated. But outside the rain was still pouring heavily, and she had nowhere else to go. That was the moment everything began. They talked that night. At first it was awkward. Ethan wasn't used to normal conversations, and Alina felt nervous sitting in a luxury suite that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But slowly, the walls between them started to crack. She told him about losing her job, about supporting her younger brother, about how unfair life sometimes felt. And for the first time in years, Ethan listened to someone who didn't care about his money or status. She didn't know who he really was. And that made her honest. Hours passed without them noticing. The storm outside softened in the quiet rain. Somewhere between laughter and long conversations, the loneliness they both carried began to fade. That night wasn't about passion or reckless decisions. It was about two strangers finding comfort in each other. But neither of them expected what would happen the next morning. When Alina woke up, sunlight filled the room. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw Ethan standing near the window, dressed perfectly in a black suit, speaking on the phone with the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Prepare the documents," he said. He ended the call and turned toward her. His expression looked serious again, the warm version of him from last night almost gone. Alina quickly sat up. "I should leave," she said nervously. Ethan looked at her quietly for a moment. Then he said something that completely shocked her. "Marry me." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Her mouth fell open. "What?" His tone remained calm, as if he had simply asked her to pass the salt. "I need a wife." She blinked, trying to understand if she had heard correctly. "Are you serious?" "Yes." She stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Alina stood up, frustrated. "This is crazy." Ethan didn't argue. Instead, he said something that made her pause. "You need stability. Your brother needs support, and I need someone who isn't pretending around me." She crossed her arms. "So you want a business marriage?" "Something like that." She should have said no. Every logical part of her mind screamed that this was a terrible idea. But life had already cornered her. No job, no security, no future plan. And strangely, she trusted the man standing in front of her. So she asked one question: "Why me?" For the first time, Ethan hesitated. Then he answered honestly: "Because when you look at me, you don't see my money." A week later, they were married. The news exploded across social media. The cold CEO had suddenly married a mysterious woman no one knew. Reporters tried to uncover her past. Business rivals whispered that she was a gold digger. High society mocked her simple background. But Ethan didn't care. And from the moment she entered his life officially, everything began to change. He spoiled her in ways she never expected. Not just with expensive gifts or luxury trips, but with attention, with protection, with quiet moments when he made time for her despite running a billion-dollar company. For someone known as the coldest CEO in the industry, Ethan became surprisingly gentle with her. Still, their marriage wasn't easy. People tried to break them apart. His board members questioned his judgment. His powerful ex-fiancée returned, determined to destroy Alina's reputation. And Alina herself struggled with insecurity. Sometimes she wondered if she truly belonged in his world. One night, after hearing cruel rumors at a corporate event, she finally confronted him. "Why did you really marry me?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he stepped closer. "Because that night, for the first time in years, I felt human." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm afraid I'll ruin everything for you." He gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "You didn't ruin my life," he said. "You saved it." From that moment on, they faced every challenge together. Alina slowly built her own confidence, starting a charity foundation to help struggling families like hers once was. Ethan supported her every step of the way. And the man who once terrified the entire business world slowly became known for something unexpected: his devotion to his wife. Years later, people would still talk about the strange story. How one rainy night brought two completely different worlds together. And how the cold CEO, who trusted no one ended up loving one woman so fiercely that he gave her not just his wealth, but his entire heart. Because sometimes the most powerful love stories begin when two broken lives meet at exactly the right moment. The wedding had shocked the entire city, but the real story of Ethan and Alina began after the celebration ended. 3 months had passed since their unexpected marriage. From the outside, their life looked perfect. Luxury penthouse, private cars, expensive events, and headlines that constantly talked about the mysterious woman who captured the heart of the cold CEO. But behind the glamorous life, Alina was still trying to adjust. Every morning she woke up in a massive bedroom that felt more like a hotel suite than a home. The staff treated her like royalty, yet sometimes she felt like an outsider in her own life. Ethan, on the other hand, had returned to his intense routine. Meetings, business deals, international calls. Sometimes he left before sunrise and returned late at night. But one thing had changed. No matter how busy he was, he always checked on her. One evening, Alina sat alone on the balcony overlooking the city lights. The wind gently moved her hair as she watched the endless traffic below. She still remembered the tiny apartment she once shared with her younger brother Simon. Life had been difficult, but it felt real. Now everything seemed too perfect. And that scared her. Just then she heard footsteps behind her. Ethan. He removed his suit jacket and quietly sat beside her. "You're thinking too much again," he said calmly. She smiled faintly. "Is it that obvious?" "Yes." He leaned back, looking at the city skyline. "You've been quiet all week." Alina hesitated before speaking. "Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here." Ethan turned his head toward her. "What do you mean?" "Your world is so different," she said softly. "Your business partners, the media, the wealthy families, they all look at me like I'm a mistake." For a moment, Ethan remained silent. Then he said something simple but powerful. "They don't matter." She shook her head. "But they matter to your company." His expression hardened slightly. "My company answers to me." Alina looked at him carefully. "You always sound so confident." "That's because I know what I want." "And what do you want?" she asked quietly. Ethan's eyes softened. "You." The answer came without hesitation. Before she could respond, Ethan's phone buzzed. He checked the screen and frowned. "Board meeting tomorrow morning," he said. Alina noticed a change in his mood. "What's wrong?" He sighed. "The board members aren't happy about our marriage." Her heart sank. "They think I made a reckless decision." Alina felt a wave of guilt. "Because of me?" Ethan immediately shook his head. "No, because they're afraid of losing control." But the next day proved how serious the problem had become. Inside the company's towering headquarters, the boardroom was tense. Several powerful executives sat around the table, their expressions cold. One of them, an older man named Mr. Harrington, spoke first. "Ethan, your personal decisions are affecting the company's reputation." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "How exactly?" "Your wife's background," Harrington replied bluntly. "The media is questioning our leadership." Another executive added, "Investors prefer stability. A sudden marriage to a stranger raises concerns." Ethan's eyes darkened. "She is not a stranger." "But she was before last month," Harrington insisted. The room fell silent. Then Ethan stood up slowly. His voice was calm but sharp. My personal life is not a board discussion. Harrington crossed his arms. It becomes one when it affects business. For the first time, Ethan's patience cracked. If anyone here believes my wife is a weakness, he said coldly, you are free to sell your shares and leave. No one spoke. The tension was thick enough to cut. After the meeting ended, Ethan returned home earlier than usual. Alina immediately sensed something was wrong. You're back early. He loosened his tie and sat on the couch. The board thinks you're bad for the company. The words stung, even though she expected them. She sat beside him quietly. I don't want to cause problems for you. You're not. But what if I am? Ethan looked directly into her eyes. You're the best decision I've ever made. She felt tears forming. But your reputation? I built my reputation, he interrupted, and I can rebuild it any time. His confidence comforted her, but deep inside she knew something had to change. She couldn't remain the silent wife people mocked. A week later, Alina made a decision. She visited a small community center on the outskirts of the city. The building was old and underfunded, filled with children from struggling families. As she watched them studying and playing, she saw pieces of her own childhood. That was when the idea was born. She wanted to help. Not with Ethan's money alone, but with her own effort. Within months, she launched a charity foundation focused on education and support for low-income families. At first, the media ignored it. But slowly, her work started gaining attention. Photos of Alina teaching children, organizing food drives, and funding scholarships began spreading online. People started seeing her differently. She wasn't just the CEO's mysterious wife anymore. She was someone who cared. One night, Ethan returned home to find her asleep on the couch. Papers and charity plans scattered around her. He gently picked up one of the documents. It was a list of scholarship applicants. He smiled softly. For the first time in years, Ethan felt proud of something that had nothing to do with business. The next morning, during another tense board meeting, Ethan placed a magazine on the table. On the cover was Alina, surrounded by smiling children. The headline read, "The CEO's wife changing thousands of lives." The executives exchanged awkward glances. Ethan leaned forward calmly. You were worried about reputation, he said. Well, this is our reputation now. But the biggest challenge was still coming. Late one evening, as Alina returned from the charity center, she noticed a sleek black car parked outside the house. A woman stepped out. Tall, elegant, confident. Her name was Victoria Hale, Ethan's former fiancée, and the woman who had once planned to become Mrs. Vale. Victoria looked at Alina with a cold smile. So, you're the girl who replaced me. Alina felt the air grow heavy. Hello, she said politely. Victoria stepped closer. You should know something, she said quietly. Ethan doesn't fall in love. Alina held her ground. Maybe you just didn't give him a reason to. Victoria's smile faded. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. You have no idea what kind of war you just stepped into. As Victoria walked away, Alina felt a chill run down her spine. For the first time since her marriage, she realized something important. Winning Ethan's heart had been the easy part. Now she had to protect it. And the battle for their future had only just begun.